Joining us now to break down these developments, CNN Chief International Correspondent Christiane Amanpour, the host, of course, of CNNI's Amanpour. Always great to have you.
Good morning.
Your first key instruction here is separate the message from the messenger.
I think so. Look, Putin is Putin. And what he's done, though, in this op-ed in the New York Times is put himself squarely behind owning this diplomatic initiative. And that's just where the U.S. wants him to be. This is your idea, Mr. Putin. You want to save Assad from military strikes. You want to have this diplomatic initiative, so show us the money. I think that's a position of some security now for the United States, particularly if the president can then say, well, if this fails, well, I've done all I can to do this peacefully, and then I will have to reconsider my options. I think where Putin goes off on these crazy tangents is when he writes in the New York Times that he thinks that the rebels have used these chemical weapons, and not only that, that they're planning another chemical weapons attack against Israel. I mean, this kind of stuff is simply not based in any kind of evidence that we've ever seen them produce.
Now, what does it say, though, about how the Russian president perceives the U.S. president? That he does speak directly to the American people, that he tried to send Parliament to meet directly with Congress?
Yeah, well, everybody has been doing their lobbying ahead of what had been thought to be a congressional vote to authorize strikes. So, yes, they were sending their ministers. The Syrians were as well. He said in this op-ed that I'm having a better relationship with President Obama personally. But then again, he gets into that twisty thing at the end. He says, but, you know, I don't understand this thing about American exceptionalism. Nobody's exceptional. We're all created equal under God. So he slaps away that idea. But, of course, the idea, of course, is that the United States does stand up for the highest moral principles, or it should. That's what we expect of the United States. And that's why it is standing against the idea of using weapons of mass destruction.
Which takes me to the next point about perception. You have there Senator Menendez saying it made him want to vomit when he read this. Now, is that a sign of political immaturity, given the perspective internationally of the U.S. action so far here with Syria?
You know, I think everybody plays to their base. I mean, I'm sorry that the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee felt like he wanted to vomit. Some people think that actually Putin has stepped in to help President Obama and the Democrats from facing a defeat in Congress over this vote, which would have been a presidency-defining defeat if that had happened, according to all the analysts. Now it seems that Putin has stepped forward, and the real issue is to keep the pressure on Putin. And let's not be at all questioning why this has happened. The credible threat of military force has brought Putin in great part to this place, where we now see Putin admitting that they have weapons of mass destruction. I mean, he said nobody doubts that chemical weapons were used in Syria. Well, he hasn't said that as strongly up until now, and has brought Syria to say, yes, we have chemical weapons. In fact, yesterday, the most extraordinary interview by a Syrian cabinet minister. They all seem to be now falling over themselves trying to explain their chemical weapons. He said, our chemical weapons are the poor man's nukes. And then he said that we had them to try to create strategic balance with Israel. You know, so they're admitting it. And the Russians have said to me that, yes, the aim is to destroy them.
Now, what he didn't mention, of course, is that Russia is very heavy on arming the Syria regime also, which gives them a, gives them a little bit of an interest where peace is involved.
It has been throughout, yes. Assad is a client state, but you know what? It's not good for Russia if this thing came to a military confrontation. And of course, one thing that Putin does say, and this is his major bugaboo, he believes, contrary to what many others believe, that the entire Syrian opposition are jihadi maniacs, are Al-Qaeda-affiliated jihadi maniacs.
Which may resonate with the American public, by the way.
It does, but the thing is, it's not true. A certain group are, there's no doubt about it, and guess what? They're getting super funded by these nations in the Arab world because the West has not stepped up to fund the moderate opposition. We are reaping what we have sown by inaction. That is the problem.